Hello, my name is Sean Campbell, and this is a 2-minute presentation for Philosophy of Protest. Over the analysis of John Rawls' definition and justification of civil disobedience, I found the well-known political philosopher has provided a sufficient effort to define justice and the procedure in which civil disobedience should be practiced. During these attempts, he thoroughly examined the procedure of past political leaders who were left with no other option but to act civilly disobedient. His emphasis on fidelity to the law was one of many important features he stressed that the audience needs to respect. The foundation of his argument is founded on his two principles of justice. The first principle requires the notion of equal liberties for all people. The second principle requires there be no violation of the principle for equal opportunity. This principle specifically refers to an economic aspect of society, which calls for work positions to be open to all. It also strongly stressed by Rawls that if one were to go about using civilly disobedient actions, they must find themselves in a somewhat just democratic society. If one were to exercise such practices in any other political system, they could easily find themselves dealing with consequences such as jail, physical harm, or worse, death. The main goals of using civilly disobedient practices is to publicly as well as nonviolently communicate to the majority of society of the injustices which are occurring. By operating this way, as well as demonstrating your fidelity to the law, other citizens begin to recognize and acknowledge the reason for acting out in the first place. These intentions are not to necessarily break the law, but to more to express the moral seriousness one has about the injustices being done to them. These public demonstrations are meant to address the community as a whole instead of just targeting a minority group. By addressing the democracy as a whole, it expresses the political and moral commitment we all have to one another. Under a similar model to the social contract, we all have, as U.S. citizens, an obligation to one another, as well as a belief in the Constitution that it will uphold all of our rights as equals. On the other hand, it is also our obligation to our society and fellow citizens to uphold and respect the law, because without it, chaos, disorder, and the uncertainty of security would surely take over our current political system. Through John Rawls' article in A Democratic Society, the practice of civil disobedience is a necessary aspect to uphold the justices of our citizens. In many ways, it is argued that the demonstration of civil disobedience strengthens democracies. It does this by showing the majority the value the minority group still has in the Constitution, even after having injustices done to them. It's a common belief we held in the Constitution and the law that permit us to move past former injustices and move toward correcting them. Thank you.